Our story begins with a brave girl named Shion, who is about to learn a hard lesson about love and rejection. We see her getting ready for school one morning. She's presented as a shy, introverted girl, someone who usually looks a bit disheveled and lacks self-confidence. But today is different. She has carefully done her hair and doesn't look as neglected as she normally does, a small change that doesn't go unnoticed. When she goes downstairs, her family immediately picks up on it. Her mother is surprised and asks her if something special is happening today, teasingly asking why the beautiful one is so dressed up. Shion gets shy and nervous, denying everything before trying to make a quick escape. But her father isn't letting it go either. He chases after her, nagging and asking what's going on. She gets even more flustered and decides to just run to school before she accidentally reveals her secret. She's certainly not going to tell them she's on her way to confess her love to Soma, the boy who has been on her mind for so long. When she finally arrives at school, she's a bundle of nerves. She's waiting at the spot where they agreed to meet, her heart pounding with the fear that he might reject her. After what feels like an eternity, the young man she has a crush on, Soma, finally appears before her and asks why she wanted to see him. For a moment, she feels like backing out, but she tells herself to be brave, to be a lion, and decides to just go for it, hoping for some kind of miracle. Gathering all her courage, she confesses her feelings, telling him that she loves him. But what she feared most comes true. Instead of a kind response, she's met with a string of mockery like she's never heard before. He makes fun of her appearance and her personality. He cruelly tells her to go look at herself in the mirror before daring to say those words to him. He adds that he could never fall in love with Shion with the glasses, and tells her in no uncertain terms that she needs to fix her appearance before even thinking about asking him to be her boyfriend. His words hit her like a thunderbolt, leaving her standing there like a statue, unable to move or even think from the sheer shock and embarrassment. Her heart is completely broken. She can't believe that the person she has loved and admired for years would reject her in such a cruel and public way. This traumatic event changes her life completely. She has been living with this trauma for 12 long years. From that day on, she becomes a recluse, deciding not to leave her house until she finishes university. But Shion is not the type to just sit at home and cry forever. After taking her time to grieve properly, she decides she must improve herself. She channels her pain and turns it into a passion, making makeup her new focus. She learns to love herself, develop her skills, and pay more attention to her appearance. Fast forward 12 years and we see a completely new woman. Shion is now 29 years old, a strong, independent woman who has managed to become a successful and confident beauty consultant. Everyone around her seems to love her and is mesmerized by her beauty when she walks down the street. But there's one problem. The incident from her high school days has turned her off the entire opposite sex. She believes that romantic relationships are just not for her and has completely cut her ties with men, no longer thinking about love or dating. Her best friend, a woman named Mitsuki, also called Suki, is worried about this. She comes to Shion and points out that she's about to turn 30 and still hasn't been in a single relationship. Shion tries to defend herself, saying she's just too busy with work and has no time for such nonsense. But Mitsuki sees right through it. She tells Shion that she knows she hasn't gotten over the trauma from that boy from their school days. As if reading her thoughts, she tells her that she needs to leave Soma in the past and open her heart to find a new love. Shion gets nervous and tense, insisting that the past is all wounds and that she's forgotten all about it. Before she leaves, Mitsuki confirms their plans to go out together that night, and Shion agrees. After Mitsuki leaves, Shion's mind starts to wander, and she remembers how she fell for him in the first place. Back in high school, she was very shy and didn't know how to defend herself. Her classmates would always try to take advantage of her kindness, bullying her, and making her do their work. But one afternoon, he appeared like a hero and defended her in front of everyone, leaving her incredibly grateful and completely smitten. She watched him from afar, loving him in silence, until that fateful day when she finally confessed, only to realize that the bully's teasing was easier to bear than the cruel words he said to her. Since that day, she closed off her heart, deciding she was done with love and relationships, not wanting to ever feel the pain of rejection again. Later that night, Shion finishes her work and goes to meet her friend, expecting a simple night out. However, she's completely shocked when Mitsuki brings her to a group blind date, filled with young men she's supposed to choose from. Her friend insists that since she's already there, she has to sit down and pick someone. Feeling uncomfortable and a bit cornered, Cheyenne reluctantly agrees to endure it. A young man soon approaches her and starts a conversation. He's completely baffled when he learns she's never been in a relationship, telling her how beautiful she is and how girls like her are usually very popular. He tries his best to win her over, and she actually starts to get along with him. After the date ends, as Cheyenne is about to leave, she notices a shy-looking girl from the gathering who seems to want to ask her something, but before they can speak, the man from the date interrupts them, asking for Cheyenne's number. Deciding to give herself a second chance, Cheyenne agrees and gives it to him. He then suggests they all go for another drink to continue the night. Cheyenne notices the shy girl is still standing there, so she invites her to come along with them. But as soon as she offers, the girl suddenly runs away, leaving Cheyenne puzzled. The man from the date then makes a cruel comment, telling Cheyenne to just forget about her. He explains that the girl is ugly and she knows it, so instead of taking care of herself, she just runs away whenever she sees men. He and his friend then continue to make fun of the girl's appearance. Hearing their words instantly triggers Cheyenne's past trauma. Their thinking is exactly the same as Soma's was all those years ago. An enormous anger boils up inside her and she can't control herself. She begins to defend the girl as if she were the one being attacked. Just then, Mitsuki appears and tries to calm her down, but it's no use. Overwhelmed, Cheyenne decides to run away from the situation. Mitsuki runs after her, catching up to ask what happened. Cheyenne breaks down, telling her friend that she's terrified of being rejected again and losing what little self-confidence she has left. She tearfully explains that even though her appearance has changed on the outside, inside, she feels like she's still frozen in time, the same girl who was humiliated all those years ago. She's afraid that if anyone saw her old pictures, they would know how ugly she used to be, and she'd become an outcast all over again. After her emotional confession, she leaves her shocked friend and walks away. When Cheyenne returns home, she's still wailing about the past and what she's just experienced. In her distress, she throws her bag against the wall. The impact causes an old picture to fall to the floor. When she picks it up, she sees it's the photo of her and Mitsuki from their high school days, with her first love, Soma, appearing in the shot with them. Seeing his face again, she's overwhelmed with frustration and wonders why she still can't forget him after all this time. Furious and wanting to close the door to the past for good, she decides to tear the picture into pieces. But the truth is, the moment she rips the photo, the door to the past doesn't close. It literally opens. A strange glowing time portal appears right in front of her. Before she can even process what's happening, she's pulled through it and transported back through time. She finds herself back in her old high school, specifically on the exact day that fateful picture was taken. She can't believe her eyes. She sees him, Soma, right there in the classroom, and she screams, thinking it must be a nightmare. The next morning, she wakes up, relieved that it was all just a dream. As she gets up to get ready, however, she looks around and is shocked to see her old youth's room. She's surrounded by her past, her old glasses, and her messy appearance staring back at her from the mirror. She still thinks she must be dreaming. Just at that moment, her mother appears, looking a whole decade younger, and warns her that she's going to be late for school. This is when it starts to sink in that something is seriously wrong. Cheyenne realizes that this might not be a dream after all, but an opportunity. She decides to live it day by day and maybe even have some fun with it. So, she quickly gets ready, but this time, she does things differently. She ditches the glasses, puts on contact lenses, lets her hair down, and applies some makeup just as she used to do in her own time. She makes a radical change to her appearance and heads to school. As soon as she arrives, she captures the attention of all her classmates. She looks so different, so attractive, that they're all mesmerized by her beauty and can't even recognize her at first. Even her best friend, Mitsuki, doesn't recognize her. Cheyenne gets nervous, not knowing how to act with all eyes on her. Then, Soma, the boy she had a crush on, enters the classroom, and to everyone's shock, he's the only one who recognizes her immediately. He simply mentions that she looks the same, just that she used to dress a little weirdly before, and then he compliments her, telling her she has a pretty face. This leaves Cheyenne completely speechless. With all the new attention, Cheyenne lives a new life, even if she thinks it's just a dream. Later, Mitsuki asks Soma how he was the only one clever enough to recognize her when her appearance had changed so drastically. He replies that her appearance didn't really change at all. He tells Mitsuki that Cheyenne has always been beautiful and cute, but her clothes were just a bit shabby. Cheyenne is shocked to hear his words and gets embarrassed. The thought that this might not be a dream terrifies her, so she runs out of the classroom to think. As she's lost in thought, she accidentally slips on a stone and is about to fall. Fortunately, just at that moment, Soma appears and rescues her, catching her before she hits the ground. When she touches him, She's sure that this is not a dream. It feels too real. She asks him what year it is, and he answers that it's 2010, even showing her his old flip phone as proof. It's then that Shion finally realizes that this isn't a dream at all. She has actually gone back in time. An opportunity has come to her, and she decides she has to live this new reality and enjoy it. The next morning, when she wakes up, she thinks that maybe her room is some kind of time portal, so she tries to re-enter it, hoping to get back to her own time, but she fails. Desperate for answers, she even goes to her mother to ask if any of their ancient relatives had superpowers, but she's disappointed to hear they didn't. A little later, as she's walking to school, she tries to tell Mitsuki her incredible story, but she packages it as an idea for a novel she's writing about time travel. Her friend tells her that she knows someone else who is also interested in that topic and promises to introduce them. Shion gets excited, feeling this could be her chance to find a way back to the future. Immediately after, Shion heads to the library and begins to read every single book she can find related to time travel, searching for any useful information, but she comes up empty. As she's walking back to her classroom, she sees Soma with another girl who is in the middle of confessing her feelings to him. She watches as he rejects the girl in the same cruel way he once rejected her. He's rude to her, telling her it's not okay to use so much makeup to hide her ugly complexions. This time, however, the girl doesn't just stand there heartbroken. She gets infuriated and slaps him before leaving. Hyeon, who saw the whole thing, swears she won't let him get away with it this time. She comes out of her hiding place and apologizes for listening in. She then confronts him, asking why he had to be so rude to the girl when it must have taken so much courage for her to confess. He explains that he intentionally says hurtful things so that girls will get over him and hate him quickly, preventing them from having false hope. Shion doesn't understand his logic and presses him to explain further. He tells her that in his previous middle school, a girl pursued him for a long time, and even though he didn't have feelings for her, he eventually accepted her confession so he wouldn't upset her. But in the end, he left her, which hurt her badly. Since then, he decided to be cruel to avoid repeating that mistake. Shion asks him if he thinks that's any better than causing someone a lifelong trauma. She tells him that no matter what happened to him, it doesn't give him the right to break someone else's heart. After giving him a piece of her mind, she turns around and leaves him to think about her words. She then goes to find the girl whom Soma had hurt, trying to help her get over the rejection so it doesn't become a trauma for her. Shion offers to comfort her and teach her how to do her makeup to cheer her up. Hours later, when classes end and Shion is leaving school, she finds Soma waiting for her outside. He apologizes, not to her, but admitting that he should apologize to the girl he hurt. He tells Shion that she was right and that he will go apologize to the girl. He then tries to explain his reasoning further, revealing that he's not an arrogant or narcissistic person. He says he sometimes wonders why girls are even interested in him when there are so many better guys out there. He explains that he acts that way with girls so they will forget him and look for someone who will truly love them, and also so they take better care of their appearance. As Shion listens, she starts to think that maybe he rejected her all those years ago for the same reason. He then confesses to her that he's noticed she has changed, becoming more sociable and active than before, and is always smiling. She gets a little embarrassed by his words and tries to hide her face, which makes him laugh at her childish behavior. They sit together and start to chat like good friends. The boy then jokingly starts to get closer to her, teasing her, but they are suddenly interrupted by Mitsuki, who arrives and immediately starts questioning what's happening between them. Nervous, Soma stands up and leaves. Mitsuki narrows her eyes and playfully asks Shion if she's fallen for him, noting how strange she's been acting ever since she took off her glasses. Shion is surprised by how close Mitsuki and Soma seem to be, and asks her how they know each other so well. Mitsuki explains that they are neighbors and have been in school together since they were in elementary school, and that they're so close she sometimes even has sleepovers at his house. This makes Shion realize that they were indeed the two closest people in the past, and that Mitsuki was the only girl Soma ever talked to. She becomes convinced that there's something going on between them. All these thoughts make her decide to eat alone. Later, on her way back home, she runs into her crush by chance. Her money falls, and he's right there to help her pick it up before offering to carry her bag and walk her home. Shion is secretly thrilled, feeling like she's living out a dream from a TV series, finally having her one and only crush walk her home. Next morning, when Shion arrives at school, she happens to find Mitsuki's notebook. When she opens it, she's shocked to see it filled with photo album pictures of Mitsuki and Soma, all surrounded by hearts. Underneath, there are captions like, "I love no one in the world as much as him, my neighbor, my love, and my everything." This further confirms her suspicions that her best friend is in love with her crush. As classes are ending, she sees Mitsuki and Soma playing together happily in the distance. The sight is too much for her to bear, so she prefers to avoid it and starts to leave. She feels like she's become a third wheel in their relationship, but at that moment, Karu, Mitsuki's friend who is interested in time travel, appears. Mitsuki had asked her to come to the school so she could finally talk with Shion. Mitsuki brings Kaoru over, suggesting they could all go to a restaurant to eat and talk freely. However, Shion coldly rejects the offer. She can't bring herself to think about returning to her own time until she knows what Mitsuki's and Soma's true feelings are for each other. Over the weekend, Shion's mother reminds her that the school camp is in 2 days and she needs to pack her suitcase. Shion remembers the camp from her original timeline, and the memories are not pleasant. In her reality, she was mostly alone, and when Mitsuki had asked Soma to accompany her to get firewood, he had immediately refused, arguing that it was uncomfortable to be around her. She decides to go again anyway, hoping this time will be different. When she goes to pack, she realizes that all the clothes she has are cheesy and outdated. Now, understanding why he made comments about her clothes, she wants to make a better impression this time, so she asks Mitsuki to go shopping with her. While they are looking for clothes, their relationship feels good and back to normal. But then, Mitsuki decides to go find Soma to get his opinion on the outfits. Shion is embarrassed in wearing a worn-out tracksuit, so she decides to hide from him. Mitsuki, worried about her friend, goes out to look for her. In her absence, Soma immediately discovers where Shion is hiding. He has to borrow her phone so he can let Mitsuki know that she's actually still in the store. While they are waiting for Mitsuki to return, he starts making fun of her tracksuit, but then senses he's being tactless and says he's just kidding. She tells him the problem isn't that someone saw her, but that he was the one who saw her. He latches onto her words, asking why his opinion matters so much to her. She quickly backtracks, saying she was just afraid he'd give her one of his harsh lectures. He then does her a favor and starts choosing some clothes that he thinks would be suitable for her. But just at that moment, Mitsuki reappears and interrupts them, asking if he's gotten a job as a stylist. He gets nervous and leaves them. Despite the interruption, Shion ends up buying the clothes he chose for her. Hours later, Shion and Mitsuki go for a drink, and a boy appears. Mitsuki recognizes him and introduces him to Shion as her boyfriend. Shion is taken by surprise, feeling like she's seen him before in the future. This revelation gives her a surge of hope. If her friend has a boyfriend, it must mean that she doesn't actually have feelings for Soma after all. But just as she's processing this, Mitsuki's boyfriend starts being rude to her, treating her badly. Thinking he might hurt her friend, Shion stands up to him. She tells him that her friend is a red line, and that she won't allow anyone to hurt her. She throws a glass of water at him and demands that he stay away from Mitsuki, arguing that she is the most valuable friend they have. Encouraged by Shion's support, Mitsuki thanks her profusely and promptly breaks up with the toxic boy. The days go by, and finally, the day of the camp arrives. Shion is nervous, remembering her unpleasant past experience. But in this new reality, when Mitsuki suggests that Soma go with Shion to get firewood, things happen very differently. This time, the boy immediately agrees to go, which takes Shion completely by surprise. When they are alone, she asks him why he agreed to go with her this time. He tells her it's because he wanted to be alone with her. She gets incredibly nervous and blushes, so he laughs and tells her he was just kidding, as usual. She gets annoyed, telling him that his jokes are bad and that her feelings aren't something to be played with, before leaving him and walking away. Hours later, while Shion is chopping vegetables for the meal, a group of boys approach to flirt with her and ask for her phone number. It's then that she remembers Soma never returned her phone from the day they were at the clothing store. She decides to go look for him in his cabin to ask for it back. However, when she gets there, he tells her he doesn't remember where he put it and asks her to look through his bag. He then convinces her to forget about the phone for a while and enter the cabin to play cards with him. They play and laugh, but when Shion is finally about to leave, he takes her by the hand, making her very nervous. But at that exact moment, Mitsuki interrupts them. Afraid that her friend would find her there alone with him, Shion quickly decides to hide. Mitsuki came to tell Soma that their friends were gathered for a barbecue and that he should join them. After she leaves, Shion Shion comes out of hiding. Later, after they've eaten, Mitsuki invites her friends to go to a viewpoint. But before they can all go together, Soma grabs Shion's hand and runs off with her, wanting to be alone with her again. Left behind, Mitsuki remembers seeing Shion's shoe in Soma's room earlier and understands that she was hiding there, which sparks a wave of jealousy. At that moment, she receives a call from Kaoru, who thanks her for an amulet she gave her to get Soma interested in Shion, as it seems to be working. But even though this was what Mitsuki initially wanted, hearing it now makes her feel sad. When she hangs up, a worried Kaoru is left wondering why the curse she actually cast hasn't worked yet. When Mitsuki returns from her walk, she starts looking for her two best friends and finds them eating marshmallows together. She decides to join them, but Soma once again takes Shion by the hand and leads her away, leaving Mitsuki all alone. That night, Shion and Soma go together to light fireworks, a moment that makes Shion incredibly happy, but then she remembers that in her original universe, she spent that day with Mitsuki. She starts to feel sad and guilty for abandoning her friend and begins to cry. Soma sees her upset and asks how he can help make her feel okay. In a moment of vulnerability, she asks him to hug her, and he does. The next day, one of her schoolmates, a girl who is impressed by her beauty, asks Shion to help her with her makeup, as she is planning to confess her feelings to her crush that day. Shion happily agrees, and once they're finished, her classmate asks her to accompany her to her crush's cabin for moral support. It turns out that the girl's crush is none other than Soma. Shion decides to take the opportunity to greet her own crush, but as she approaches the door, she hears Mitsuki's voice inside, telling Soma that she is in love with him, but he immediately replies, telling her that his feelings for her were in the past, back when they were in middle school, and reminds her that she was the one who rejected him. He mentions that he only pulled away from her because she kept pushing him towards Shion, and he didn't want her to meddle, which hurts Mitsuki deeply. Sadly, Mitsuki runs out of the cabin, finding Shion waiting at the door. Shion tries to stop her, but Mitsuki screams at her not to bother her anymore, adding that in reality she never wanted the two of them to be happy, before running off in tears. At that moment, Mitsuki begins to remember her past. She recalls how she was never really a wanted child. Her parents only gave her money and didn't care about her life at school. Because of this, she let herself be carried away by anyone who showed her the slightest bit of affection, even if they were just taking advantage of her. She met Soma, who was going through a similar situation, and began to get closer to him with the goal of protecting him from bad friendships, and little by little, she fell in love with him. And although he felt the same way, she didn't want to ruin the friendship they already had, so she decided to reject him when he confessed. She then remembers how she became best friends with Shion, who had defended her from a teacher who was insulting her, leaving her so grateful that they became inseparable. Remembering all of this, Mitsuki breaks down in tears. Just at that moment, Shion appears, wanting to talk to her. Shion reveals that she was also in love with Soma, but was terrified of ruining their friendship and losing both of them. She then comes up with an idea to ensure their friendship can last forever. Both the girls would confess their feelings to him, and whoever was rejected would have to accept it without any hard feelings. This plan ends up convincing Mitsuki. Unfortunately, after they both go to him, Mitsuki is the one who is rejected. Just when it's Shion's turn to confess and Soma is about to respond, Kaoru, who is jealous of their bond, casts a spell. A strange blue light appears and a time portal opens in front of Shison before she can hear what Soma's true feelings are for her. Because of this strange event, Shion comes to believe that Soma's confession is the trigger that will send her back to her reality. So, she interrupts him and asks him to forget the topic for a while, leaving him completely bewildered as he thought this was what she had always wanted. The days go by and the protagonist return to school. But now, every time Shion sees Soma, she actively avoids him because she doesn't want him to confess his feelings and send her back to her reality before she can understand what's truly happening. Because of this, feeling isolated, the makeup artist decides to call Kaoru, the fortune teller, to talk to someone about her time travel. When she meets with her, she explains everything, and Kaoru tells her that she believes she has traveled to a parallel universe, different from the one she lived in her youth. She mentions that if she returns to her reality, everything that she has lived through these days would likely be lost. She also suggests that dating her youth love might be the key to returning to her universe. Meanwhile, because of the amazing makeup Shion had done for her classmate during the camp, the girl had become so popular that now all her classmates are asking Shion to teach them how to do makeup too. On the other hand, Shion, worried about what Soma might be thinking of her recent cold behavior, decides to approach him and apologize for not considering his feelings. She mentions that she has her reasons for acting this way, which the boy takes very well. But then he gets closer to her and takes her hand, which makes her very nervous. Unintentionally, some classmates see them holding hands, and a rumor that they are dating spreads throughout the entire classroom. As soon as her classmates see Shion, they start attacking her with questions, which upsets her a bit. Overwhelmed by the pressure, she shouts in front of everyone that she doesn't like Soma. The boy happens to overhear this, and with a sad expression, he decides to just leave. Because of this, Mitsuki approaches her best friend and asks her what is happening and why she is behaving so strangely with Soma. So, Shion finally confesses the whole truth to her, that she has traveled through time. To her surprise, her friend immediately believes her. Wanting to help, Mitsuki decides to take her to see Kaoru to figure out what they can do. She remembers that she had previously asked Kaoru to put a spell on Shiin for her confession, and she's sure that it has something to do with the time travel. However, when they confront her, Kaoru confesses that she actually put a curse on Shion so that her confession would fail. This infuriates Mitsuki, and very upset, she ends her friendship with the sorceress and storms out. A few minutes later, Mitsuki recommends to her friend that the best course of action would be to tell Soma the truth so that he can understand the reason for her behavior. When she finally tells the boy the truth about the time travel and the curse, he believes her without hesitation. They decide to accept not having an official relationship for now, but they do start to become much closer again. The days go by, and one night while the makeup artist is studying, she is intercepted by a classmate who tells her that if she's not dating anyone, she should go out with him. Soma overhears this, and annoyed, he hits the boy with his backpack. Then, sadly, he tells Shion that as long as they don't have a real relationship, other guys are just going to keep approaching her. So he decides to take the next step and tries to kiss her. However, the protagonist gets scared and pushes him away, which annoys the boy, so he decides to leave. At that moment, as Shion watches him walk away, she starts to feel bad. She runs to look for him, and when she finds him, she stands on her toes and kisses him, realizing in that instant that she hasn't returned to her reality as she had expected. Feeling calmer now, he approaches her again and kisses her properly. The next morning, the protagonist tells her friend everything that happened the night before. Mitsuki is overjoyed for her and decides to plan a double date for her, Soma, herself, and her new boyfriend, where they all have a great time and a lot of fun. However, later that night, as Shion is on her way home, she finds Kaoru waiting for her at her door, asking for a moment to talk. The sorceress reveals that she has found the way to return her to her world. The solution, she explains, is to break the spell by confessing her feelings for Soma again, in excruciating detail, and for him to be able to confess his feelings to her as well. This makes the girl hesitate, as she has fallen so in love with this new world that she no longer wants to leave it. However, Kaoru urges her to do it soon, explaining that because of her, the lives of all the people she has interacted with in this universe are being affected, as she is fundamentally changing history. This leaves the protagonist with a heavy heart, thinking about the consequences of her actions. The next morning, as the makeup artist is arriving at school, she overhears a teacher telling Soma that he has changed his decision to study abroad just to stay in Japan with her. This scares her, because in her reality, the boy had gone to study abroad, and she realizes she is truly affecting the life of her first love. So, sad but determined, she decides she must confess her feelings to him again, hoping that he will also confess to her so she can finally return to her world and set things right. However, when she confesses, Soma doesn't respond to her as she expected. He senses that something is strange and tells her that he needs time to think about it, suspecting that she is only doing this to go back to the future. At this moment, Mitsuki is standing in the distance listening to everything. A few minutes later, she goes to the protagonist, revealing that she knows Shion is planning to return to her world, which takes them both by surprise, as they believe she would stay with them forever. In the afternoon, while the protagonist is at home, she starts talking with her mother about what career she would choose for her future, and she suddenly realizes how much she misses her parents from her own universe, and Mitsuki too. So, gathering her courage, she goes to Soma the next morning and confesses the full truth, that she wants to go back because she knows she doesn't belong in this place. Although it hurts him to let her go, he decides to accept her decision but asks for just one more day with her. The next day, Mitsuki and the protagonist are giving away her makeup to her classmates, which they all take as a form of farewell. But Soma, clinging to his new love, isn't ready to give up. He asks his friend to take him to see Kaoru, the sorceress who cast the curse that caused the time travel in the first place. However, when they meet her, Kaoru confesses that the real reason she did it was because she hated the protagonist, because thanks to her, Mitsuki stopped being her friend. This saddens the boy, but also gives him an idea. He believes that if the cursed photo that started everything is destroyed, there will be no more problems. So he immediately runs in search of Shion, and when he finds her, he asks for the photograph of the three of them. Then, in front of her eyes, he rips it. Suddenly, the time portal opens again, but this time, it returns all three of them, Shion, Soma, and Mitsuki, to the day the photo was taken. Soma is very excited, believing that since the spell was broken, Shion will finally be able to stay with him, and they can be together for good. However, the sad protagonist tells them that this isn't what she wants. She asks Mitsuki to go to Kaoru again and ask her to reconjure the photo, explaining that it was thanks to all her experiences, including the boy's initial rejection, that she became the strong woman she is today. This makes Soma feel incredibly guilty, and he apologizes for having been so selfish and for wishing she would stay with him against her will. So, they immediately go to the sorceress. Shion then begins to say goodbye to everyone, starting with her parents, her best friend, and finally she goes on one last date with Soma. The protagonist thanks him for making her youth happy and asks if she can look for him when she gets back to her universe, to which the boy tearfully answers yes. Then, just as it happened in her original reality, she confesses her feelings to him again, and this time, he responds in the same way, accepting her feelings. Immediately, Shion begins to disappear and returns right to the moment where she ripped the photo in her own reality. Because of this incredible journey, the first thing the girl does is immediately apologize to Mitsuki for the fight they had before she time traveled. Days later, she starts looking for Soma everywhere she can think of, only to discover that all of her old friends have lost contact with him. Then, Mitsuki decides to organize a picnic day to reunite all their middle school friends. While Shion is there, she takes the opportunity to visit the last place she remembers being with her youth love, the place where she confessed her feelings. And just then, Soma appears from behind her. He tells her he doesn't know why he suddenly came to that specific place. He just felt like he had to. The protagonist then reveals to him that she believes he's been having dreams about her, and she confesses that those weren't dreams. It all actually happened because she had traveled through time. To her relief, Soma believes her immediately. She then confesses that she will love him forever, and the boy answers in the same way, telling her he also truly loves her. Then, he slowly gets closer to her and kisses her, finally bringing their long and complicated love story to a happy conclusion. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.